I think there's going to be some interesting conversations coming along. But in the meantime, decisions are hell. I will stand by that statement. And you need people on your side who will help you make the decisions that you can feel good about moving forward in your business. So we're here to drink a little and give you some information to help you make some of those decisions.
Wouldn't be executive poor without a good drink.
Absolutely.
I'll have to do that. Put that on the list. Pricing and managing employees.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, I'm done. I'm so done. Okay, so we are starting this, and I'm gonna. Oh, mine comes first again. Do you imagine that? Oh, mine always comes.
Yeah, because the lawyer's always throwing water on the parade.
Uh-huh.
I know my role.
So, I just had a big breakthrough strategy session. The ideas were flowing. Everything was wonderful. Oh, it was great. Secret sauce. Perfecto. Already drafting the content. It's innovation at its finest. We're ready to go.
Yeah, so I feel like this is where I have to throw water on everybody's parade. Who actually owns all this stuff?
What do you mean?
Well, like, who owns the content? Who owns the secret sauce? Who owns that fancy new logo? Who owns all those ideas?
The ideas? What do you mean?
People ask me all the time. How do I take this idea and make sure it's mine and only belongs to me and nobody else can steal it?
What do I do with that? I don't even know how to answer that. What do we do with this? Oh, I have answers for everything. That's why it's Sullivan Solutions. So we can't use that. But
I think between the two of us, we'll figure out some answers. But first, my name is Maritza Shea Nelson, small business and nonprofit attorney, trying to make sure that you don't run into problems exactly like this while you're doing all these wonderful things that you're super excited about.
I'm Karen Sullivan, keeping your brand scalable with marketing from the C-suite.
And this is Executive Pour. Speaking of which, Karen, what's our drink of the day?
Our drink of the day is more Old Forester.
Love it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I'll drink to that.
So let's talk a little bit about, unfortunately, some legalese I've got to throw out there, right? Because we're talking about lots of content, right, which brings up copyright law. We're talking about ideas, which can sometimes bring up trade secrets. You're talking about innovation and how we look at all of that from a marketing standpoint.
Sure.
Trademarks is its own sort of bag of worms. I'll just save that for a whole other episode. But, you're sitting in this innovation session, either as the marketing person with your clients or just, amongst your fellow business partners. The ideas are flowing, the juices are flowing, everybody's coming up with a lot of great stuff. And the thing I worry about is we get to a point where all of a sudden things don't work out. And now it's like, well, that was my idea. You can't have it. It's mine. I'm going to take it with me.
How is it yours? We were sitting in my office.
Yeah. So let's kind of define a couple terms to help people, I think, understand some of this.
Wow. All right.
So when we're talking about content, the words on the website and the brochure and the fancy fee proposal, your videos, podcasts, right?
Everything we do.
All of that falls under the umbrella of copyright.
Okay.
And the weird thing about copyright is that bundle of rights that we call copyright exists from the moment you create it in some tangible format. The catch is...
even if I just write it on a whiteboard?
Even just on a whiteboard.
All right.
The catch is kind of twofold. One is that I can't enforce that copyright if you don't actually register it with the Copyright Office.
Okay.
And two, and probably even more important to you, is that the copyright belongs to whoever created it in that tangible format. So were you writing on the whiteboard? Was it your contractor? Was it your business partner that you now hate? Was it the marketing person that you hired?
Wow.
Who did that?
I don't even remember. I mean, I can barely read my own handwriting.
Exactly. And now you've got a bunch of lawyers in a room fighting over this stuff.
Wow, that gets complicated real fast.
It does. It does. And again, this is why, as we talked about in the last episode, it's so important to write some of this stuff down.
So what happens if we don't? We fight over it. Who wins?
Literally whoever actually created it. And so now we're having this really expensive fight. Did you create it? Did I create it? You know, who remembers what? How do we remember it? It turns into this nasty he said, she said, and for what?
Right. Well, but clearly somebody owns this stuff. So
right. Somebody owns it. So the default is it's whoever created it.
All right.
Now, two kind of big exceptions, right? If your employee created, and I mean W-2 employee, not that 1099 you're paying under the table, but if a W-2 employee created it as part of their job duties, by default it belongs to the company.
Okay.
But for your contractors, those 1099 folks, in order for it to be a work for hire, that phrase everybody likes to toss around, it literally has to be in the agreement. This is a work made for hire.
Okay.
And if by some reason it doesn't meet the very technical definition of work made for hire, I am assigning my rights in it to you.
All right.
So that's why you always see that stuff in contracts.
All right.
So that's the critical thing when it comes to content.
Good. So we're good. So we're done.
Well, but the other piece of this is whose idea is it, right? So we get all these ideas and people come into my office all the time and go, hey, I've got this wonderful idea. How do I make sure I protect it so that nobody else can steal it or use it?
Oh boy.
And here's the unfortunate news. The law doesn't really protect ideas. Now, it will protect something called trade secrets.
All right.
And those are literally all of that secret sauce stuff that we've been talking about.
Right.
That's valuable precisely because your competitors don't know it.
Okay, but I can't protect it, or?
So you can protect it as long as you actually put the effort into keeping it secret.
Okay.
So what a lot of people don't realize is you've come up with a wonderful idea for a new business. I'm going to create X, Y, and Z. Great. As soon as you throw that website up there and tell the world about it, everybody else is allowed to go, oh, that's a great idea. I think I can build it better.
Oh.
But
I've got to have a website.
You got to have a website. But what makes your process unique to you? That secret sauce that's not on the website,
right?
That customer or client list that you don't share with everybody,
right?
Those things that we actually keep secret, that the law will protect, and that's what we call trade secrets.
Okay.
So, from a marketing standpoint, when you're thinking about this wonderful meeting, we've come up with all this innovation. What exactly, are we innovating? And how are you helping your clients kind of differentiate between, hey, this is something we could protect. We need to go talk to the lawyer. This is something that you probably want to keep secret. And oh, by the way, if we're sticking this on the website, if you're successful, you're going to have competition.
So do I have to have them, do I have to do this for every meeting?
Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes we just, this is why we'll do an NDA, right? Hey, before we start working on this stuff, before I tell you all the details about this new business venture, sign this NDA.
Okay.
Here's a little secret. Like 99% of the NDAs I've ever read all say the exact same thing. Like they're pretty standard documents.
All right. So why don't we see more of them?
I think it's what we talked about in the last episode. People are afraid to show with the legal document, right?
Yeah.
So, oh man, if I present this in front of you and all of a sudden it's like, oh, what, you don't trust me?
Right.
Oh, maybe you really don't want to do business with me. Oh, you think your idea is that important? Fine. I don't need you anyway.
So it's no big deal. Just sign it and have the conversation.
I mean, what do you have to lose?
That's true.
Are you really talking to somebody about your latest innovation or secret sauce that you want to go out there and start competing with you? Or that you think that would stab you in the back that way?
Well, you don't. That's just it. You never know in advance, do you?
Well, there is that for sure.
All right. Well, so let's forget about all that. I'll just that's what AI is good for, right?
I'm glad you brought that up. So one thing that has been incredibly clear from both the Copyright Office and probably within a few weeks of this recording, the Supreme Court, copyright requires a human element. It requires some human creativity. And so both the Copyright Office and the Supreme Court have come out very clearly and said, look, no, if a human didn't create it, it cannot get a copyright registration. So if it's all 100% AI, you can't give it to the Copyright Office.
Well, how does AI get it to begin with?
Well, now that's a debate and a legal fight that a lot of, especially the big corporations, right, maybe a little above our pay grade, but are still having, right? We know the publishers are having this fight where people are taking books and feeding them into the large language models to train those models, right? Those big publishers are having those fights. For us, smaller businesses, not so much the Fortune 500. The big thing I remind everybody about is tell your team, stop using the free AI stuff. Because if it's free, they can take your information and do whatever they want with it.
Right.
At least if it's paid, every time I've looked at those terms of service, it's very clear we're not going to take your stuff to train our models.
Note to self. That's one that's worth paying for here. So ChatGPT, fork it over.
Oh my gosh. Now, I heard just recently that supposedly, and I haven't had a chance to look this up, supposedly ChatGPT is going to stop answering medical and legal questions.
There's got to be a lawsuit there somewhere.
I figure there had to have been a bunch of lawsuits there somewhere, but I haven't had a chance to dig into it.
Yeah, it can be pretty scary. So, okay, we're going to be really careful with AI. What else can help me navigate through this without being absolutely paranoid like you're talking me into?
Well, again, my goal is not for people to walk away from this paranoid, right? My goal is when you're having these conversations with people, your marketing person, if they've got a halfway decent service agreement, there's probably a confidentiality clause in there already.
All right. So I'm looking for the confidentiality.
So you're
clause.
looking for that.
All right.
If
fair enough.
You're going to a marketing person, you're saying, hey, design me a few logos, right? There's probably something in there that addresses who's going to own it. Most of the time, if somebody's come to my office and said, hey, I'm a marketer, I need you to do a basic service agreement for me to handle my clients, it's, hey, it can belong to them as soon as they pay me for it. And that's typically what I see, right?
Right.
But the other thing I think people sometimes don't think about is the employees, right? You're bringing on the new employee or the contractor. Are those clauses in their agreements too?
Right.
Right. Hey, if you create it for the company, it belongs to the company.
So as a creative, can they still use that in their portfolio? Can I use that as an example of work that my firm has done? How is that covered?
So a lot of times it depends on the client, but most of the time what I see in a contract is, hey, you did a logo for my office. I've paid you for it. The logo belongs to me, but I'm giving you permission to include that in your marketing materials as a part of your portfolio. On the website, I think every software as a service company out there has these are all the big companies that work with us, right? The fancy legal word for that is a license, right? Which literally just means permission, right? I own it.
Right.
I'm giving you a license or permission to use it strictly for marketing purposes.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll have clients, especially, some of my consulting clients have bigger clients who will say, nope, you absolutely can't, use our logo any way, shape, or form. If you have ever done work for Ohio State, they are not going to let you use their logo. I'm sorry.
The Ohio.
My apologies. I am from the South. I know my accent has disappeared. I've been here a long time. I should know better by now. But the Ohio State University is not going to let you use their logo on anything. So if you go do marketing work for them,
right,
I promise you they won't agree to that paragraph.
Yeah. Been there, done that. So, okay. But as a marketer and a creative and a business owner and all these other hats that I wear, the sole purpose of any business, service, product, whatever, the sole purpose is innovation and marketing.
Yeah.
You've got to have an idea, you've got to sell it. And that's not me saying that. That's, thank you, Deming. But so how do I safely do that? And how do I continue to innovate if these kinds of things become a problem?
Well, and I think that's the big thing is understanding that the law doesn't protect ideas that are out there. So the classic example I give people, and I always forget who came up with it first, but the drive-through.
Mhm.
Historically, it was either the banks or the fast food restaurants, and I always forget which one.
Yeah.
But other businesses saw that idea because it was very public once you built the drive-through and
Sure.
went, huh, that's a great way to serve customers. I'm going to do that too. You're allowed to do that. So when you start talking about innovation, what makes yours unique or better or more original or more creative or,
Right.
and we'll talk about this when we talk about trademarks, but we all have a preference between Nike and Adidas or Apple and Windows, right?
Right.
What makes one better than the other? And that's, I think, where your marketing work comes in at. What are you doing to help those clients say, hey, you want the original idea, not the copycat? Or our idea is better because of X, Y, and Z. What is that value proposition?
Now that's very true, and that's one of the reasons we say marketing has to start from the C-suite, because it does absolutely have to not only involve some of these legal concerns, but it has to involve sales, it has to involve operations, has to involve HR, because of the people involved, the innovators involved, and the personality of the product itself and the reputation. So if you are trying to have a top shelf brand, or differentiate yourself and have a unique innovation, unique idea, you've got to make good on that time every single day. You've got to deliver that in the eyes of your clients. And a lot of times that's not marketing delivering that value. That's the rest of the company that has to actually do that
Well,
in a variety of ways.
that consistency is so important. I mean, I think you'll probably get this question more often than I do, but what do you do when you haven't been consistent and now all of a sudden it's those bad Google reviews are trickling in? And now
And they do.
you want marketing to fix that or you want legal to somehow demand that
Right.
it comes down. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you didn't fulfill the promise that you put out there in your materials, which, yeah, maybe legally that's not the contract that we talked about in the last episode, but in the mind of the public and in this day of internet and social media, that is very much a part of the
Absolutely.
contract.
Absolutely. Perception
Yeah.
will get you every time. So it's got to be what your client believes, your customer believes they're buying, and that very much does come back to the last episode, why you have a contract in place, and what you can, and be very clear, that clarity about what you can and can't deliver. So that does play out over the whole arena.
Yeah. Karen, a lot of my clients are service providers. I don't get too many of like the sort of like the widgets or the t-shirts or the physical
Mhm.
products, right? But one of the things I'm noticing as we're talking about innovation is more and more people are trying to turn their service really into some sort of an asset. They're building a framework, they're building a unique process, and that
Yep.
becomes almost the product that they're selling. From a marketing standpoint, how do you help people kind of think through that and start to build out, whether it's the content or the teachable platform or selling courses or whatever that's going to look like?
Well, ironically, and I totally agree with you. I think not only do we both count among our clients predominantly service-based customers, but I think in general, this our country, our entire nation, we're becoming a service-based. Am I saying this? I'm worrying too much about politics. I think, without making it political, I don't think it's even just national. I think it's the evolution. Gee, I probably can't use that word either, can I?
Oh my gosh, just say the thing. Like,
Say the thing, right?
we don't work in factories anymore.
We don't work in factories anymore. We are very much service based. And more than ever, individuals are becoming the service.
Yeah.
There's, and I think some of it we see coming out of COVID, we all got used to a huge amount of autonomy, working remotely, not necessarily being forced to be part of a team, and cookie cutter employees and all of that. So that just accelerated that change. And so more and more, this is service based, autonomous people. And the only first thing that comes out of their mind is, yeah, how do I differentiate myself? How do I hold on to what's mine? my idea. How do I protect that? I want to do it differently. That's why I don't want to go work for somebody else. I want to do it my way. And that's very entrepreneurial. Every entrepreneur, I believe this unequivocally, unequivocally that every
that old Forster's kicking in.
Yes, it is. But I believe every entrepreneur starts that way by saying, I can do it better. How do we protect that? And how do we understand that? Because we're also becoming a much more litigious society.
We are. And I think that's why we started
ourselves?
That first episode with contracts. But even knowing that we're a super litigious society, one of the things I often find myself talking to people about is like, hey, I'm the lawyer, not the marketing person, okay? But what I see time and time again is that people get so worried about what everybody else is doing. Oh, this is what's trending on social media. I need to jump on the trend or the bandwagon. And I suspect you'll agree with me when I say that from a marketing standpoint, what's going to drive sales and make your company prosper in whatever way that means for you is to embrace what it is that makes you unique, right? I do not look like your stereotypical stuffy suit lawyer,
Absolutely not.
And that's okay. So lean into it, embrace that. And I think that will make you stand out in the market and help you attract the customers or the clients that you're really meant to attract. We can't be all things to all people.
And maybe I'm okay with that. And that's a topic for an upcoming episode. Little plug here. We're becoming more service oriented. I'm becoming more autonomous. Do I necessarily have to structure my business like everybody else? So, we'll argue over that as well. But I need to do the things that make sense, but I don't want to get caught up in doing things just because my lawyer said I have to have this contract or that contract. I want to make sure that's the right things for my business.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be some flexibility in there to kind of embrace what it is that makes you unique, right? You provide marketing services. I provide legal services to small businesses and nonprofits. There are a gazillion of us out there that do that, right? Like, let's just be honest.
Right.
But there is a reason that people say, no, I want Karen Sullivan. No, I want Shay as my lawyer, right?
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to fill in the blank down the street, right? So acknowledge that and embrace it and make that a core part of your business, your marketing, who you are. Let's figure out how to build that into the website, into the fee proposal. Do I need to put that in the contract somewhere? I mean, the thing I pride myself on as an attorney is that I'm not just out here selling you the same cookie cutter template that everybody else gets. Like, that's a starting point. Like, newsflash, attorneys are the one industry that's allowed to plagiarize documents. It's what we do. Like, I never start from a complete blank canvas. Like, that'd be insane. It costs you too much money. But my job is to think about all those risks, even if they're 1 in a million, and then to craft something that is unique to how you do business. Right? So like when we talked about contracts, it's maybe we stick the fee proposal in front and then, oh, by the way, here are all the legal terms our attorney said we had to have. That's fine. That can be the opening paragraph. I don't care. Right? Or, hey, you're getting ready to do the website. I just want to make sure, is there something in here that says I'm going to own the content of my website when we're done with this?
That's fair.
I've got a brand new idea for AI to deliver gobbledygook, whatever, Hey, is there something here that you're not going to go out and compete with me when I explain this idea to you, Miss Software Engineer, so that you don't just take my idea and run with it? Those are fair questions to ask.
They absolutely are. And you're talking my language now too, because as we see more and more service-based industries, and we see more and more people, the solopreneurs and the people sort of doing the things on their own, things do have to become very personalized. And as automated as so many things are, it still comes down to that personal conversation that you have with someone, that you have with a client, that you have at a networking event. Every contract in these scenarios pretty much comes down to that personal one-on-one and that conversation that you have. So yes, there are cookie cutter marketing solutions. There are cookie cutter legal solutions.
Yeah.
They may not be for you. There are plenty of people out there who do exactly what you need them to do. It's
Not a step beyond.
it's just a little harder to find them, I think. But you have to have those conversations. So anybody you're looking to hire, this is about learning what questions to ask them and ask them how they will handle these things. And again, I think we need to have an episode about those hard conversations too.
Well, and I think we'll have to, do an episode just about, AI and, how much do we still need
Oh,
service providers in a day and age where, AI can answer the questions. I mean, like I'll be honest, right? Like you are my marketing person, right? Like I use Sullivan Solutions, and there are some things where I'm like, well, let me just ask Gemini right quick, right? Like
sure.
it'll save me some time to shoot you off an email, right? I know people do that because they come to me with, well, I'm going to ask my lawyer, but I also ask, Chat GPT or Gemini or
Yeah.
whichever one's your favorite, and this is what they said, and they will push me on that,
Yeah.
right? But I think that, or at least my suspicion is, there's going to be a bit of pushback to AI.
Oh yeah.
It's good for some things, but there's going to be a strong desire for, I want the human element. And when we talk about
Absolutely.
innovation, nobody wants your AI gobbledygook. They want something that a human being
Right.
actually created.
Yes. Yes, they do. And more than ever, I see that personal element coming out. So I agree. That's probably a conversation for a fresh bottle, but it's a conversation to have. And I don't think there's going to be one standard answer immediately either. I think it's an ongoing conversation.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as we talk about innovation, not to get too far into the AI weeds, but right now, it is what it is. It's really not intelligent.
Yeah.
It's just a language model. It spits out words that sound good together. But as small business owners, right, we have to be prepared to pivot as technology changes. So how do you innovate in a day and age where, do you come to me with here's one that comes up a lot, right? Do you come to me as the attorney with your question about, do I fire this employee or not? Or do you just settle for whatever Chat GPT told you about it?
Right.
And how do we sort of compete with that,
Yeah.
right?
And are you going to stake your business on that answer?
Right. Same thing with your marketing. Like, I mean,
right.
Even logging in is like, hey, do you want AI to build your website? Do I? Or do I want something that's not going to be the same as everybody else's website?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's another rabbit hole. We have a lot of them, so stick around. And so you got one for the road?
My one for the road is, as your lawyer, all right, so
you are my lawyer.
Internet disclaimer, right? I'm not everybody's lawyer. Watching a video doesn't make me your lawyer. But as a lawyer, I'm not here to make your life difficult. I just want to make sure that you actually own your stuff, right?
That's fair.
And the easiest way to do that is there a contract we can point to that says you own your stuff, right? Is there a trademark or copyright registration that says you own your stuff? If you're telling me it's a trade secret, have we actually done the work to keep it secret?
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about, because one day you might very well want to retire and sell this business. And guess what? If all that stuff's not clear, this business is not worth what you think it's worth.
Right. Well, that's for sure. The schedule sure isn't. But so your secret weapon in the issue of who owns the IP. Think through what the process is that you use, because there always is there's always a hierarchy or a step by step, whether you've actually documented or not. So your secret weapon can be that proprietary system that you use. And clearly ours is marketing from the C-suite. And that is what we've documented that at one point basically did live in my head. And we've brought it out into something that we can document, delegate, and get it done. That's our secret weapon.
So I'm curious as we wrap up here, your marketing from the C-suite, that process, that framework, you just hand it to anybody without having them sign anything?
I'm glad you asked, because my lawyer created a very good subcontractor agreement and employee agreement for me so that I can place the same expectations on my team that my clients place on my company. And no, I don't turn the stuff over to them until they have signed that and basically bought into the process and the philosophy. Is it foolproof? I don't know. We haven't tested it yet.
Well,
but I will say one of the things it has done is not only is it a marketable framework for clients, it's a recruiting tool as well. Because now my team knows that there's a process in place that they can come back to and rely on themselves. They're not just trying to pull something out of my head as the business owner. So this playbook definitely has value as IP and value on a day-to-day basis.
and that's going to make it easier to grow and scale your business if that's your goal. And we'll talk about that on the next episode.
Absolutely. So, a toast to the visionaries who turn their ideas into impact and innovation and protect it.
And protect it. Well, that wraps up another episode of Executive Pour. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, if you've got something out of it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, wherever you prefer to listen. And make sure to visit executivepour.com for those show notes and all the transcripts as well.
executivepourpodcast.com.
I've got to get that right. That's a pretty good ending, huh? We're going to get the ending right one of these days.